Good evening, everyone. Welcome into our latest edition of the Milford Informer. I am your host, Tim Coet. As always, we come to you from our home field credit union Studio B, which officially turns 1 year old this week. It's amazing how quickly a year has gone by since we celebrated the official opening of our studio expansion. If you live in the Milford community and you have not yet taken advantage of all that our expanded facilities have to offer, we encourage you to come see us inside Milford Square Plaza, take a tour, and sign up to become a member. Meanwhile, let's jump right into tonight's Informer by showing you our top stories rundown.
Tonight, we'll take you inside this week's Board of Selectmen meeting, where the final appointments were made to complete the Police Chief Search Committee. Also tonight, Dr. Kevin McIntyre discusses the proposed school budget, as well as the Long-Range Educational Facilities Committee in his February Superintendent update. And later in sports, we'll share boys basketball highlights from February 13th against Stoughton, which featured yet another memorable fourth quarter performance by senior Brendan White.
While many in the Milford community remain divided over the Selectmen's decision not to renew the contract of current Police Chief Thomas O'Loughlin, the board moved forward this week in selecting members to sit on a selection committee that will begin the search for Milford's new top cop. Let's take you inside this week's Board of Selectmen meeting to find out who will sit on that selection committee.
Mr. Chairman, basically, most of the positions, as you know, are required by Article 32. Just to recap, the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Michael K. Walsh, representative from the Milford Police Association is James Herron. There was a revote on that for a particular reason. Personnel Board Chairman Scott Harrison, Police Chief Thomas J. O'Loughlin, Finance Committee Chairman Chris Moran, all have accepted their appointment to the committee. And then, as you know, Town Moderator Mike Nofri appointed a town meeting member, which is Richard Heller, and then the two other members at large, Donato F. Nero and Dino Di Bartolome. The board now is left with their four appointments. One, has to be a town meeting member. The other are three residents of Milford, not town officials or town meeting members. In your packet, I added tonight just a listing of those who have accepted and those who have submitted letters of interest for your four appointments. And I look for a motion or motions if need be.
Mr. Chairman, we said at the last meeting that we'd make great deference, if possible, to the people who originally applied and originally submitted their letters. As it turns out, through a luck of the draw, the original members all fit those categories. Right, so
Yes.
if we look at the original David Brush, Edward Bertarelli, Christopher Fritz, and Jody Stiglia. They all fit that category, with Edward Bertarelli being the town meeting member appointed, or I shouldn't say appointed, originally submitting his name. So with that, I'd like to make those appointments from the original list, identifying Edward Bertarelli as the town meeting member. Why don't we stop there? Just make that as a motion. Appoint town meeting member appointed by Selectman Edward Bertarelli.
I'll second that.
I would make that unanimous.
Okay. And then on the balance of the three from the original list that we received of interested parties when we posted the notice some months ago, David Brush, Christopher Fritz, and Jody Stiglia.
I'll second that.
And I would make that unanimous as well.
Okay.
Got that, Rick?
Yes.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I can, I just want to, I did a little, just from their resumes and everything, I think it's important for folks to know that, among other things professionally, Edward Bertarelli's been a town meeting member for over 30 years.
32, I think
As
it
for the
says.
three folks, according to their resumes, David Bruch is a longtime EMC employee. Christopher Fritz, who obviously a resident of Milford, is a Wellesley police officer for at least the last 20 years or so. And Jody Nosiglia is a HR manager at MIT. And I'm probably not even doing her justice in describing what she does, but extensive HR background. And I only know them from their from their resumes, but I think we have a very diverse, very impressive committee to move forward. I think with that, I think also we probably want to start maybe taking a couple of weeks to, I'll look for the advice and counsel of my colleagues, but I think also that, according to the bylaw, the police chief search committee, they have obviously very important work to do, but a lot of work to do. Rick, I don't know if you know this offhand or can maybe, just do the research it takes. I believe the last police chief search, going back obviously 18 years, it was about, I think, maybe 3 or 4 weeks short of a year process.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that long, but yes, it was a long process.
It was a long process.
Yes.
And I think, or at least one, from the point where I think the new chief started.
Okay.
You figure the people you're attracting, both locally and nationally, this isn't a job that necessarily somebody could possibly give 2 weeks' notice and then start their job. This is at an executive level. So I think, if I was on this board, I would hope that, I know very clearly according to the bylaw, what my duties and responsibilities are. But what I don't know is maybe what the selectmen are looking to add. Not that there's, and that's where, there is a representative obviously from this board, and not as direction, or I should say not as a directive to the committee, but just saying, okay, we're gonna send, they had the huge job of doing interviews, background checks, follow-ups, visits. I mean, there's a lot of work for them to do to make this very important decision. But then they know, according to the bylaw, that they have to send us a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5 of the finalists for us to decide. So regardless of what comes out of their deliberating for months and months, is the fact that they probably should at least know maybe what things or qualities we're looking for. I'm glad you and Rick were already talking about it as role of chair and deal with the town administrator. That's exactly, I'm glad to hear that you were having those conversations. But I think just for the, for the greater knowledge base out here, for our constituents to know that, this is gonna be a decision that will be made after all of this work and due diligence is done. And it's a lot of work. And I want to publicly acknowledge the 12 members who have volunteered to serve, because it's a lot of work.
Right, and you make a valid point, because after we go through this process, then it comes to us.
Yeah. And then we have to look at everything that they submit to us.
Right.
Because according to the bylaw, they submit 3 to 5 names unranked. So they're not even telling us who their maybe number one is, if there is one, or this, and then we have to figure that out amongst the 3 of us.
Yeah, if I remember.
And move forward.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
If I remember correctly, the last search process, they went to communities. They visited communities, so,
Yeah, I remember Dino, I think, went to New York City on one of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who went where, but I know that part of that process was to go talk with business owners, talk with community members, and get a feel for the public safety.
Colleagues, subordinates.
Colleagues, subordinates, yeah.
It's
So,
A lot of work.
As the students get set to enjoy vacation week, Milford School Superintendent Dr. Kevin McIntyre joined us in studio to bring us the latest installment of his superintendent updates. In this February edition, Dr. McIntyre discusses the proposed budget for the schools and also provides the latest info on the Long Range Educational Facilities Committee.
Hello Hawk Nation, welcome to the February Superintendent Video Update. In this update I want to talk to you about the 2019-2020 budget and the Long Range Education Facilities Plan. The school committee has approved a proposed budget for the 2019-2020 school year, which requests a 6.28% increase over fiscal year 2019. This incorporates 4.24% for level service and 2.08% for new initiatives, which are aligned to our 4 strategic focus areas of social emotional learning, equity and access, growth-focused instruction, and continuous learning. These new initiatives support teaching and learning through additional classroom, curriculum, and social emotional learning support. Chapter 70 funds from the state are estimated to increase 15.4% over the current fiscal year and the coming year. Last year, the percent increase was 7.7%, and we are anticipating at least a 7.7% increase for the coming fiscal year. In 2017, spending on the Milford Public Schools was 11.4% less than the state average of a per pupil basis. The budget supports the growth of our high-quality educational programming our residents have come to expect. We are scheduling a budget presentation for the public that will allow parents and residents to ask questions. We are also holding 3 sessions in March to present the findings of the Long Range Education Facilities Committee and receive feedback on the options, timeline, and any other aspects of the plan. The 3 sessions are scheduled for March 4th at Milford High School, March 11th at the Senior Center, and March 19th at 41 Pine Street. The March 19th presentation will be in Spanish and Portuguese. The task of the Long Range Education Facilities Committee was to develop a Long Range Education Facilities Plan and provide recommendations for future building, renovation, and major capital projects that took into account teaching and learning practices, a vision for technology, and grade configurations, and the best use of facilities. We know that education is shifting towards student-centered instruction around engaging pedagogical practices, focused exploration and preparation for college and careers, academic skill development and the prevalence of soft skills, and that technology supporting learning will continue to play an important role. What has the committee accomplished? We are holding a series of meetings to discuss the development of a plan, receive community feedback, and create a timeline. NESDEC completed a pre-K through 12 school facilities best educational use study that was completed in April of 2018. The Center for Living and Working Incorporated completed a self-evaluation and transition plan for ADA compliance that was completed in June of 2018, and our goal is to develop a plan to share our initial findings with key stakeholders and the community. The committee prioritized building needs in the following order. Number 1, Milford High School, followed by Stacy Middle School, Memorial Elementary School, Brookside Elementary School, and finally Woodland Elementary School. 2 potential options emerged. The first option, which we've called the complex option, is to explore the feasibility of constructing a combined middle high school complex on the current Milford High School site or another suitable site in the town of Milford. The second option, which we call the traditional option, would be to either renovate or build a new high school, followed by a renovation or new middle school building, followed by Memorial Elementary School in Brookside. We'll be hosting presentations to provide the detailed findings of the committee and answer any questions and receive feedback from the community. These presentations will provide significantly more detail on the completed assessments and the why behind the initial recommendations. A copy of the presentations to the Milford School Committee is available on the Milford Public Schools website. I want to thank all of the committee members for their hard work and dedication to this process. It is an honor and a privilege to serve as the Superintendent of the Milford Public Schools. Thank you, Hawk Nation.
Last week we showed you how the Senior Center, Milford High School, and BVT were all preparing for this week's festive Valentine's Day tea party over at the Senior Center. Our Milford TV member Ryan Farrell did not want to miss out on the fun, so she made her way over to the event earlier this week to provide us with the following Milford TV member report.
Hi everyone, Ryan Farrell here at the Milford Senior Center, getting ready to pop on in for the annual Valentine's Day tea party. So, chip chip cheerio, off we go! So this is just incredible to not only see but hear everything that's going on in the little Senior Center main area. How much did it take to get everything beautified for this today?
Well, it's always an effort to do these things, but it's what we do, it's what we enjoy. This we've been doing for a few years now, so we kind of have this one down, but coordinating the schools is always a challenge. But the kids are doing great. The string quartet, if you can hear them, they're wonderful.
They're beautiful.
BVT has some beautiful food that they're bringing out. And of course, I have the best team on earth, so all the help I get from Nancy and Susie, and Dolores isn't here anymore, but she still helps us out. So we have a really good team in place, so it's become just one of those things we do.
So Nancy, the event hasn't even begun yet and I'm already in awe. Is this just as exciting for you all?
It is. It's a great day. We've got a beautiful day out here. Our orchestra just got here. The girls have been here since 11 o'clock from the school. They've been preparing the sandwiches and doing the tea. So there's a lot going on, and you can see everybody has their teacups, and it's going to be a great day.
So Aida, we're here at the senior tea, and I see that I'm lucky enough to be sitting at a special table reserved for the Red Hat Society. And I see you're wearing a beautifully trimmed red hat. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, once I was on a day trip, and they always stop at a gift shop or some such place, and I saw this red hat, and I thought, that's perfect. It was just a red straw, and I add stuff to it to fit the reason. Red hat, purple, so I have purple flowers. In the fall, I have leaves. I have changed color that I put on it. Spring, I put daffodils, whatever. It changes a little.
You crafty critter. You crafty little critter. That makes me very happy. So is this something that you and all your gal pals come to year after year?
Every year we come, we gussy up. Look at that lady with the red lace top.
Fancy.
Yeah,
I love
so
it.
yeah, it's one time of year that I actually get to get, that
gussied up.
gussied up. Yes. Yeah.
Gussied up and go out with your gal pals. What could be better? Everyone looks beautiful. All the decorations, and how much of a scurry was it this morning to?
Actually, we had pretty much everything planned. As they say, this isn't our first rodeo. We've had quite a few of these tea parties. So it's nice that we, get the girls, they know what they're doing, and they're able to prepare, and we'll help them prepare, but they know what they're doing. They can pretty much do it themselves at this point.
Well, I know my taste buds are ready to sample some of those yummy concoctions. So I have to ask you about this uniquely funky, vintage-looking teacup. I know there's a story behind that.
It is. My mother-in-law collected them, and she had some beautiful teacups. And when she passed away, the family took turns picking out the ones they liked. And this one kind of caught my eye. It's not easy to drink from, but it's really pretty.
But it's pretty, and it adds to the whole beauty of this day. And especially the fact that you're here with your gal pals and you're having a grown-up tea party.
That's right. We're having a good time. Valentine's Day.
Amen, sister friend.
Oh, this is a great event. Are you kidding? This is wonderful. And I think the best thing is, of course, the seniors are the best, but having these kids interact with them, that's what it's all about. It's intergenerational. It teaches them how to deal with the seniors.
Yeah.
The seniors love kids, so having them serve them the food that they prepared, listening to the music that they're doing, it's just a wonderful thing.
It's very uniquely special.
It is.
And thank you
Especially for Valentine's Day.
especially
Happy
for.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, can we put up a heart? Let's put up our hearts. And big cheesy grins. Oh, you got it. You got that.
The Milford boys basketball team is entering into the final stretch of the regular season, and once again their playoff hopes are hanging in the balance. After securing back-to-back wins last week that suddenly propelled Milford into the division title discussion, the boys suffered a fourth-quarter collapse last Friday in North Attleboro. As a result of that game, combined with a win from Stoughton and a loss from Foxborough, a total of 4 teams entered into this last week of division competition tied for second place. 2 of those teams would meet in the Milford gym on Wednesday night as the Hawks hosted the Stoughton Black Knights. Let's check out the highlights.
An implosion in the fourth quarter of their last game allowed a 9-point lead to turn into a 10-point loss. Once again, Milford would need to find a way to pick themselves back up as they faced a must-win game at home against the Stoughton Black Knights. Early on in this game, it was clear there was a carryover effect from their previous game for Milford, and Stoughton would take advantage. The first points of the game would go to Stoughton big man Obina Ogwakazi, who despite a good defensive effort from Dom Schofield is able to elevate and drop in the one-handed shot. From there, the offense would start to flow primarily through junior Miles Gringalunas Powell. Here he fakes the pass outside, freezing all 5 Milford defenders long enough to connect on an easy jumper. Then off the three-point miss, Powell finds himself in good position for the rebound, and he lays it back in for 2 more. And then it's back to the nearly identical spot on the floor as his first bucket for another successful basket that would put the Black Knights on a 10-0 run to open the night. Finally, we'd see a miss out of Powell on Stoughton's next trip up the floor. Brendan White would secure the rebound, and he'd dish the outlet pass ahead to Matt Vardaregian all alone up the floor, and he would take it in to finally give the Hawks their first points of the quarter. Milford's only other points from the field would come late in the period, as Danny Corsini would sink a deep three-pointer to cut it to a 2-possession Stoughton lead. But Stoughton would then answer with a 3 of their own from junior Thomas Sanda, and eventually the first quarter would end with the Black Knights on top 16-9. It would be a better start to the second quarter for the Hawks. A series of offensive rebounds would keep play alive for Milford, and eventually Jordan Darling would convert under the basket. Take a look at Danny Corsini here. He weaves a pass through traffic to Ralph Franklin Jr. down low, and Franklin is able to hang in there against some tough defense to get the shot. A free throw from Corsini would cut the deficit to just 2 points, but from there that combo of Uguakazi and Powell would start to heat back up. With the defense staying close to Powell, he would start feeding his big man in the low post, and Uguakazi would come through with back-to-back impressive buckets to push the Stoughton lead back up to 6. And it's back to Powell, who makes an absolute power move to the basket, getting the shot and the foul. Milford would have no answers for the skill and athleticism of Miles Gringalunas Powell throughout the first half. Here he gets clear of Vardaregian and knocks down the shot to give the Knights an 11-point lead with time winding down in the half. Milford would again pull themselves to within striking distance thanks to a pair of free throws from Darling and a big 3 from Matt Vardaregian to cut the deficit back down to 6. But the final minutes of the half would be owned by Stoughton. The Knights would score 8 of the final 10 points of the half, including a 3 from way downtown just before the buzzer, courtesy of a Jean Roux, that would give Stoughton a 12-point lead at 36-24. It would hover around a 12-point Stoughton lead through the early minutes of the third. Finally, after Milford wins back possession through a scrum, Saylor would find Corsini with a pass, and Danny would show great touch getting the floater to fall. About 4 minutes in, we'd see Brendan White fight through contact for what would be the senior's first points from the field all night. White would then continue a perfect night at the free throw line, cutting the Stoughton lead back down to 7. The run would continue for Milford seconds later as Jordan Darling pushes ahead in transition and gets Uguakazi to bite on the Euro step before finishing with the right hand to bring it to a 39-34 score. Uguakazi would get his revenge on Darling a few seconds later as he outworks the sophomore for position under the basket, getting the shot and the foul. That would set off an 8-2 run for the Knights that would take us down to the final seconds of the third. It was then that Brendan White would give the Hawks a huge jolt of momentum as he takes the ball the length of the floor and seems to levitate in mid-air as he releases the three-pointer right before the buzzer and drains it to make it an 8-point game with 8 minutes to play. A big 3 ended the third quarter for Milford, and they would come through with another to open the scoring in the fourth as Dom Schofield gets left all alone. He would get fouled as he released the shot, and the big man would finish off a 4-point play to instantly cut the Milford deficit in half. Stoughton would work the lead back up to 8 with about 6.5 minutes to go when White would pull off the steal, and he'd go coast to coast for the bucket that would prove to be a huge turning point in the game. Off the ensuing inbounds, Colby Perez would force another Stoughton turnover, and the junior would take it in to cut it to a 4-point margin. We take you down to 5 minutes to play and Stoughton clinging to a 3-point lead. Milford would put it in the hands of White out on the wing, and the captain would drain the shot and would go on to finish Milford's second 4-point play of the quarter, bringing Milford all the way back to take their first lead of the night. Stoughton would briefly tie the game back up at 53, but Milford would then travel back up the floor where White would chip in another huge offensive rebound, leading to the layup for Corsini that would push Milford back on top. From there, Brendan White would make sure the Hawks held on to that lead for good. White would pour in 3 more three-pointers over the final 3 minutes of the game. For the second time in 3 games, Brendan White would produce 15 fourth-quarter points. Milford as a team would outscore the Knights 27-8 in the fourth, and as a result, they would keep their playoff hopes alive for another day. Milford digs deep to earn the 66-55 comeback win over the Stoughton Black Knights.
Regardless of the final outcome of this season, one thing is certain when it comes to the boys basketball team. They have provided some outstanding drama on the basketball court all season long. The boys will finish the division portion of their schedule February 15th as they travel to Canton. A win and Milford is into the MIAA tournament. Should the boys lose, they would need Foxborough to lose their game to North Attleboro, which would trigger a three-way or possibly a four-way tie for second place, allowing all teams with a share of second place to enter the tournament. One other basketball note, the boys will be closing out the regular season by hosting their 4th annual Scarlet Hawk Classic. The field in this year's tournament features Malden High School, Wellesley High School, and tournament staple Tantasco Regional High School. Milford will open tournament play against Malden on Monday at 7 p.m., with the outcome of Monday's games determining opponents and game times for the conclusion of the tournament on Wednesday. One final note before we wrap up the show, I'll be away from the studio in February vacation week, so we will be re-airing this edition of the Milford Informer next week. We'll be back with an all-new edition on March 1st, where we will get you up to speed on the boys basketball team's status in the playoffs, and we'll also hope to bring you the first installment of a new series featuring the folks over at Cornerstone at Milford. Enjoy vacation week, and we'll talk to you again in March. From all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coet saying have a great week. So long, everybody.